I bought a box full of kitchen gadgets. Items ranging from quite small to something really quite big in here, which I'll be opening later. I'll be rating them all out of 5 stars, and we'll start with the small stuff. It's the front part of a unicorn. Doesn't that look cute? There's these 2 pointy spikes at the back, and it slots together with the rear section here. Push them together and we've got this mini unicorn. It came like this as a twin pack, and they're actually corn holders. Get it? Unicorn? So I sat it down to graze while I cooked some corn. So let's try it out and see how well it works. Push the front section in like this, then swing it round and do the rear. These spikes really are pointy, so I'm being very careful. But there we go, check that out. Doesn't that look awesome? How cool is that? And it even stands up. They feel solid and it works well, so I'm going to give it a rating of 5. If you're enjoying this video, please do like and subscribe. The next gadget comes in this little box. Slide it out, and it's this metal device which looks a little bit like a can opener. It's actually an adjustable lid remover for jars or bottles. It slides back and forward like this, so you can set it for different sizes. Then lifting and lowering this handle up and down, ratchets it forward to grip the top. I'm going to test it out on these jars and bottles, which have got different diameter lids. So slide it open, and push it back to the lid, then lift and lower the handle a couple of times so that it squeezes tight and grips. Wow, I can even pick up the whole jar like this. And now we've got the extra leverage from the handle. It should make opening the jar a lot easier. Well there we go. And if you struggle opening lids sometimes, that's worked really well. So I removed the lid, and I'm going to test it out on this larger diameter. Give the handle a squeeze, and yeah, super easy. So it works with big stuff, but what about really small bottle tops? It's exactly the same process to set up, and make sure it's gripping tight with that final squeeze. Then, yeah, no issues. The lid doesn't slip inside of the gadget or anything. It's working well, but let's try it on this really small bottle top too. Yeah, nice. It's broken the seal and done the hard bit. It definitely works well, but it's a little bit fiddly to use, so I'm going to give this 4 stars. But now let's take a look at this. It's a 4-in-1 cleaning tool that can stick anywhere to keep within easy reach. Okay, it says there's a plate and bowl wiper, a surface squeegee, a baked-on food scraper, and a countertop brush. There's some ideas on how to use it here, and some suction cups on the reverse side here. So I just pulled it off the packaging, and it was held on with these little sticky pads here. They scratch off nice and easily. And here it is. So there's this brush down the one side here. I'd say it's a medium stiffness. This rubber squeegee which goes over the top and down the side. This is actually quite firm. There's this rubber kind of indented bowl section here, which I think is just to grip it with. There's actually one on both sides. And on the reverse, you can see these 8 suction cups. Oh, and on the bottom, it goes to a point here for a scraper too. It definitely feels really solid and well made. So let's try it out. The countertop brush is quite useful for sweeping up crumbs. It gets right into the corners, which can be useful, and you can also use it for cleaning up appliances or scrubbing the grout lines between your tiles. The surface squeegee does a good job of scraping up any spilt fluids, but personally I think I'd just use a cloth, and I'm not really convinced about the plate and bowl wiper. Sure, I mean, it scrapes them off, but it seems like a bit of a faff to me, and I think the rubber should be a little bit softer, so it shapes to the contour of the plate or the bowl a bit better. But yeah, it does the job. The sucker pads on the reverse are cool for just storing it on the side of your sink. It sticks on nicely, allowing any water left on it to just drain away. But now I'm going to test the baked-on food scraper. So I baked this rack of ribs. The sticky barbecue sauce and the meat juice really has baked onto the tray. I let it cool down, then tried the scraper. Wow, that really is crispy and baked on. The scraper is doing a little bit, but it feels like it's a bit too heavily baked on. It is a good size though, and I do like the idea, but then when I wiped it off I noticed something. I gave it a wash, and you can actually see I started to wear down the plastic. Look at that, it's been ground off. That's crazy, I know it's baked on, but I wasn't expecting it to wear away the plastic like that. So I left the tray to soak for half an hour, then tried again, and now it's all soft. The gadget was actually really useful. It all scraped off pretty easily, and I was even able to use the squeegee section to get nearly all of it off. Then I finished it with just a soapy washing up brush. It is quite a cool gadget, despite its limitations, so I'll give it 4 stars. Now this gadget looks cool. It's called a smart strainer, and it's some kind of collapsible metal colander. That sounds pretty clever, so let's take a look. Slide it out of the box and take it out of the bag, and well, there we are. It looks kind of crazy. I've never seen anything like this. There's these big green hoops at the end, which even turn. You can see that the metal section linking them is full of holes for draining. And they're actually a whole load of layers all stacked on top of each other. There's these little green plastic bits halfway along, which I guess are for us to grip for when we're pulling it apart. So I'm going to give it a bit of a tug and... Oh well, that's definitely not easy. It's kind of taking shape, but... there we go. Check that out. It looks like some kind of modern take on a medieval helmet or something. Pretty cool, huh? It feels pretty sturdy, although there is still some flex in it, of course. But let's see how easy it is to collapse. Oh, blimey. It kind of feels like I'm going to chop my fingers off any minute now. I'm really having to squeeze this and... there we go. It feels like I should be using safety gloves to use this thing. Let's try it again. Maybe it's just a bit stiff when it's new. So, nearly... Yep. There we are, yeah. Yeah, yeah, it really doesn't like going back together. So I spent a few minutes just fiddling with it to see if it got any easier. And I found you can actually collapse it by just twisting the hoops on the ends. It is a little bit clunky, but with the right technique you can get it to work quite well. So I'm going to use it for straining off this pasta. That worked fine, and I do like these large green hoops. They're a really cool and functional way to pick it up. And because the whole thing is so flexible, you can actually pinch it together and hold it with one hand, like this, then tip the food out nice and easily without it going everywhere. That's cool. But apparently it also doubles up as a steamer. So I sat some carrots and broccoli inside and placed it over some simmering water. If you want to, I guess you can also sit a pan lid on top to keep the steam in, and after 10 minutes, I had this lovely, freshly steamed veg. Cleaning it wasn't actually too bad, although I was really conscious about cutting myself on the edge of all of these metal bits, although you can put it in a dishwasher. But when it comes to storage, it really does win. It's so much smaller than a conventional colander, so you can just store it in a drawer, like this, or slide it alongside of your pans in the cupboard. I do find it a bit clunky to use though, and the sliding metal sheets do make me nervous, so I'm going to give this 3 stars. Next we're going to take a look at this egg dispenser. I've seen these but never actually tried one, so let's see how well it works. It says it holds 12 to 14 eggs over the 2 tiers. So I opened it up and took it out, and here we are. It does feel quite flimsy, but then I suppose there's no real need for it to be too substantial. This bit here is where the eggs roll from the top layer to the bottom. So let's try loading it up. I got 12 eggs, and I'm loading it up from the bottom at the front and working back. Now this bit I think is where we have to be a little bit careful. That one's literally just sat on top of the other one and you can rock it. And then work back along the top too. So there we go. That looks pretty cool to be fair. Now let's see what happens when I take one. Oh, that's cool. I'll put it back on the top. It does make me a bit worried when the top one rolls down and hits the one underneath like that. Surely sooner or later it's going to crack one. But taking a look at these two, they look okay. But that does worry me a bit. And I did find, whilst the ones along the bottom tier all move forward really well when you take an egg, the ones on the top layer sometimes don't. You have to push them along manually. Of course, with an egg being the shape it is, it doesn't roll forward perfectly. It tries to turn and jams up the chute. So personally, I think the best way to use it is to push the eggs back along the top layer as you remove one from the front. And by doing this, you can stop that top egg just rolling off the top and hitting the egg underneath. Instead, you can make it kind of smoothly transition around, so you avoid that moment of impact. So I definitely suggest using it like this instead. And another thing I did find is you can actually completely empty the bottom chute, and some of the eggs remain stuck on the top. Now you might not think this is a problem, but what happens if it suddenly starts to roll? Oh blimey, it even jumped out the front. Then before I knew it, the next one rolled down too, jumped over the edge, and smashed on the floor. What a waste. So you definitely don't want to be leaving any eggs sat on the top shelf like that. But I did find when it's loaded up full of eggs, you can move it around quite freely. So if you're storing them somewhere and want to move them to where you're cooking, it's easy enough. And I found the whole dispenser fitted perfectly in my fridge. Pretty cool, huh? What about you? Do you keep eggs in the fridge? It is really annoying that you have to push the top layer along as you remove one, and although it kind of feels like an accident waiting to happen, I do like this gadget. I think it's useful and fun. So I'm going to give it 4 stars. Now it's time to find out what's inside the biggest box. Slide it out and remove it from the packaging, and we've got this 3-tier shelf. It's got this grey non-slip plastic surface, which looks quite smart. But check this out. You can stretch it. It expands by sliding out from itself. So it's actually a cupboard organiser. If you've got a really cluttered cupboard like this, it can be a real pain trying to find anything. You can't see the labels, it's just a mess. So empty it all out, and we'll see how well the organiser works. Sit it inside the cupboard, then expand it out to the sides, and stack your goods on the shelves. I'm starting with canned food along the back, but before we finish, I want to show you this can. There's something special about it. Although it looks just like a regular can, it's actually a secret storage stash pot. You can twist and undo this cap on the bottom. Oh, check that out. Then load it up with whatever you like. Maybe you got some cash lying around the house you want to keep hidden, or some jewellery or keys. And once it's back together and sat on the shelf, you'd never know what's inside. Pretty cool, huh? And once you've loaded up the rest of your shelves, check it out. How neat is that? You can actually read the labels and see what you've got. Of course, the shelf itself does take up cupboard space, and I can't stack two cans on top of each other anymore. So do be mindful of that. But to be fair, the end result is a lot nicer. It looks so much tidier, so I guess it deserves a 5-star rating too. And I'm also going to give the stash can 5 stars. There's links to all of these products in the description. But what do you think? Which was your favourite? And if you'd like to see how kitchen gadgets compare to using a knife, you can click on this video here. Have fun, stay safe, and as always, thanks for watching.